This all leads to the fourth rule, one that is a little different from the others. As teachers, practitioners, and clinicians, your ethics require you to diligently work, move heaven and earth if you must, to aid the upgrading of your students, clients, or patients. In the forensic sciences milieu, however, you must go yet a step higher on the integrity chart. Here you cannot be an advocate for any client, suspect, witness, lawyer, judge, employer, anybody. You can only be an advocate of the completeness and accuracy of your work and of course, your own good ethics. Only your data and your findings can be allowed to speak. You must not take sides with anyone. Hence, rule number 4. You must not be an advocate. You must present your findings in an unbiased manner. Now, before sending you on to hear what my brilliant colleagues have to say, two of whom I work with, let me introduce you to two of the forensic areas that we're going to have to cover today. They are speech enhancement and decoding. They're related, you see. These areas may not seem to be very exciting to you, but you undoubtedly will change your mind when you begin to see the challenges they create, and especially when you learn what is being said on those recordings and what you need to decode. How do you start this work? First, by making a good copy of the recordings. Don't mess with evidence recordings. 2, by establishing a log and records. These are important to the chain of custody, or if you wind up testifying sometime. And 3, by carefully listening to the entire recording. And finally, by finding out what those recordings are all about and what is going on them. The importance of these two areas of law enforcement and intelligence results from their need for accurate logs, transcripts, and so on that result from surveillance, interrogation, intercepts, meetings, and the like. Unfortunately, recordings made for these purposes are often of very poor quality. The primary sources of this are noise and distortion, that is, noise and distortion from poor quality equipment, poorly trained operators, and or, important, hostile environments. Specifically, speech can be degraded by noise of any type, by many classes of distortion, by low energy, inadequate transmission links, microphones, bugs, telephones, or from environmental factors such as hum, wind, vehicle movement, clothing friction, other talkers, music, and so forth. The remedies here include several types of easily available programs for electronic filtering, noise elimination, restructuring the speech signal, and so on. As I pointed out, the first of these remedies is filtering, especially removal of sound above and below the speech range. Second, there are specialized kinds of filtering, comb filters, notch filters, and other types of filters. And hey, binaural listening can also be very helpful, as can variable speed recorders. And another thing you can do is use noise to fill in short dropouts. Deconvolution is also helpful. These are all user-friendly techniques. Most of them are on your computer and are easy to get and use. Many of them are free. On to decoding. As I said, difficulty in providing an accurate transcript occurs when the content of some or all of the recorded utterances remains obscured, even after you enhance it. As a decoder, you must deal with that as well as a number of other problems. These may be voice disguise, dialects, foreign languages, multiple speakers, and the effects of stress, fatigue, intoxication, drugs, health states, and so on and on and on. These are distorters of the speech, but you already have experience with voice distortions, don't you? I don't want to bore you, but think about it. As a decoder, what would you focus on first? Why, you'd focus on the relatively easy to decode sections. As you know, speech and language are quite redundant. Words have an effect upon one another, co-articulation. Context aids intelligibility, and determination of one word in a multi-word series, context analysis, can often aid in the correct identification of the other words. It goes on and on. Decoding also can be aided by use of computer-based graphic displays, like those found in K-Allometric Speech Lab, or PROT. Sound spectrograms can be used to estimate vowels, consonants, how a particular sound is spoken by comparing it to ones already identified. So, as it turns out, there are many techniques available here, and you already know and use a number of them. I'm not going to go into any more detail, as you can upgrade your techniques by a little study. However, let me say that reporting your findings must be as highly organized as the decoding process itself. That is, it's not appropriate to simply write down the words and phrases you may have heard, or just write inaudible when they weren't intelligible. It also is necessary to explain what went on during the recording, as well as what you think might be missing. For this, codes are mandatory, and they must be explained, used consistently, and used systematically. So too will you need to describe all of the events that occurred. Example, quote, talk a C, help me, footsteps, door closing, 2 gunshots, loud thump, unquote. Here you can tell a lot more about what went on than just those 2 cries, can't you? Once the decoding basics have been completed and the confusions resolved, the text can be structured in its final form and carefully reevaluated for errors. All this may be a little more difficult than it sounds, but it's doable. And now for much more interesting reviews. Here they come, and so long for now.